Hey everyone, this is Daniel from PhoneArena with a video comparison between the LG Optimus G Pro and the Sony Xperia Z. This will be one of the dilemmas before high-end phone buyers this season, so we are staging a comparison to ease your decision-making process. The Optimus G Pro we're using here is the version for Korea and comes with a 5.5-inch Full HD screen, while the model announced for Japan has a 5-inch display like the Xperia Z here, and which variation will hit the US and Europe in Q2 remains to be confirmed. Still, besides the screen size, both G Pro versions are identical, so we'll get a pretty good overview in any case. This here 5.5-inch Optimus G Pro is very light and compact for a screen of this magnitude, thanks to the ultra-thin bezel around it, yet it is a challenge to operate safely with one hand. Unlike the Xperia Z, Sony has used this on-screen navigational case, so its 5-inch flagship is pretty compact in its turn, and it is thinner and lighter than the Optimus G Pro, making it more suitable for a daily driver in terms of ergonomics or plain old carrying around. Sony's phone also sports a bit more premium feeling in the hand with its glass unibody and metal power key, and it is easier to grip thanks to the rubbery sides that also add to its durability and seal off the watertight chassis. Both handsets allow you to add more memory via micro SD card slot, but the G Pro has a removable back cover here that lets you swap its largish 3140 mAh battery. The G Pro here houses a 5.5-inch display with a bit lesser 401 ppi pixel density than the 5-inch 441 ppi panel on the Xperia Z. On account of the identical 1080 by 1920 pixels of resolution on both. In reality, the density difference, as you can see, is invisible from a normal viewing distance. You can't really tell that one has a larger PPI count than the other, while LG's phone has the better display in almost any other aspect, especially the viewing angles, which on the Sony Xperia Z are pretty bad for the phones category. As you can see, one of the handset's weakest points. Even when looked head-on, the colors and contrast on the TFT display on the Z look more washed out than on the IPS LCD of the G Pro. In terms of brightness, both perform about average, with decent outside visibility, but as we mentioned, colors and contrast deteriorate quickly on the Z with the slightest tilt of the handset. Let's have a look at the interfaces on these Full HD displays. Both handsets have their own manufacturer overlays on top of the Android 4.1.2 interface. Sony's Timescape has been renamed to Social Life now, while LG keeps on calling its skin the Optimus UI. Both offer the opportunity to pin several apps like the browser, notepad, video player, calculator, and so on top of anything else you're doing underneath. LG calls it the Q-Slide apps, whereas Sony has its small apps function. And you can only run one small app at a time on the Xperia Z, whereas with the LG Optimus G Pro you can have two at once. You can adjust their transparency so they don't get in the way, so on and so forth. Take a look at the keyboards. Since we have this huge 5.5-inch display, you can shrink the keyboard left or right, so it's easier to type with your thumb only when you're holding the G Pro with one hand. Still, it's quite a large display, so it's not very comfortable to type on with just your thumb Sony's UI, as you can see, is closer to stock and less functional than the Optimus UI. There are much less connectivity toggles in the notification bar, for example. And there is no landscape mode on Sony's phone, unlike what we have on the Optimus G Pro. LG also introduces some new hardware features, like the Q button on the side, which can be mapped to launch any app of your choosing. We've mapped it to launch the camera, and you can also use it as a shutter key, but you can also assign any default or installed application to be launched by it. There's also an infrared sensor at the top of the G Pro with this resident Q remote up to it, which lets you control your TV, home stereo, AC unit, and so on. Sony also has a similar app for phones like the ZL or slates like the Tablet Z. It's just that an IR blaster didn't make it into the Xperia Z. The Optimus G Pro is equipped with a new generation quad-core Qualcomm chipset, 1.7 GHz Snapdragon 600 versus the 1.5 GHz Snapdragon S4 Pro on the Xperia Z. So naturally, it is more powerful than Sony's handset. In reality, both chips provide plenty of horsepower for your daily tasks and interface strolls. But the G Pro would certainly make a speed mark when it stitches things like a 360 virtual panorama, which it has as an option in the camera interface. The handsets both sport 2 GB of RAM, but there are 16 GB of internal memory on the Xperia Z, while 32 GB are housed on the G Pro. Yet both give you a microSD card slot should you need more than that. So in a nutshell, we got 7,963 on the Xperia Z here and the 12,314 on the LG Optimus G Pro, which is a record setter in terms of benchmarks for now. We have no complaints about the way both default browsers handle your internet needs. They're fast and smooth in scrolling, zooming or panning around. And the screens offer amazing pixel densities for easier reading, as you can see. Sony Xperia Z, however, uses Google's Chrome, which precludes you from adding Adobe Flash to it, whereas the Optimus G Pro sports this default Optimus UI browser, besides Chrome, that can easily have Flash installed to it from the Adobe archives, as you can see, and it runs without a hitch. The phones offer 4G LTE and HSPA Plus connectivity with bands depending on the regions, as well as Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 4.0, assisted GPS, DONA, and NFC. The G Pro also throws in Miracast and Wi-Fi Direct into the mix. Sony uses its renowned Walkman branding for the music player, which has pretty cool graphics and easy access to sound enhancements and equalizers from the interface itself, whereas the G Pro has it a bit less functional with no presets, but a handy video button that takes you to a YouTube playlist with the song currently running. Sony usually has the upper hand in loudspeaker strength and quality, but here the Xperia Z sounds about on par with the loudspeaker on the G Pro. Both are fine, but not great. Where the Optimus G Pro shines is video playback, thanks to the huge high-resolution display it has, but also because its video player, as you can see, supports much more functions than the minimalistic video player of the Xperia Z. It has subtitle support, loop function, and the like. Other than that, both handsets can play anything thrown at them, up to 1080 definitions. Both LG and Sony don't give any indication that the megapixel war is over for them, despite HTC announcing so with the one. Hardy 13 megapixel units we have on both handsets. Sony's camera app interface is a bit simpler to use and more functional with this rich selection of scene modes for every occasion out there. It also features the still and video camera buttons on one and the same screen, unlike the G Pro where you constantly have to switch back and forth between them. While both handsets support HDR stills and video, LG throws in a couple of new tricks like virtual reality Panorama, which can stitch a 360 view of your surroundings, while Sony's sweep Panorama alternative can only do one axis at a time. The G Pro also sports a handy dual recording mode in video, which lets you make picture-in-picture footage with the front and rear camera, recording simultaneously. As far as picture quality goes, the ones from the G Pro seem a tad more color accurate and defined than the samples from the Xperia Z, but could use a little more contrast. White balance measurements are more correct on LG's phone, while the sky on the Z samples often came out purplish. Indoors, the roles were reversed, with the Xperia Z producing the better, more accurate colors, while the G Pro introduces some white balance issues and softer photos. Both phones can capture Full HD 1080 video with 30 frames per second and high dynamic range video as well. The footage from the Xperia Z comes out choppier and with some skipped frames compared to the more fluid one from the G Pro, but Sony's phone automatic settings produce higher, more appealing contrast volume. Sony's HDR video mode also looks better than the fairly bland WDR footage from the G Pro. To put an end to this fight, the LG Optimus G Pro is the newer and better handset in terms of inside components. And yet, it is by no means an easy pick before the Sony Xperia Z, more so in this 5.5-inch version. While LG's phone might have a faster processor and a better screen, it is still much more unwieldy to handle than the fairly compact Z, especially with one hand. When we add this durable, waterproof glass unibody of Sony's flagship, you'd only be considering the G Pro before it if you want your screen as large as possible in the most compact chassis available. Still, if you're on the fence and the little things count, the LG Q button here that can be mapped to launch any app of your choosing, and the infrared sensor here at the top of the G Pro are adding additional value. While if a huge swappable battery is of importance to you, the 3140 mAh unit in the G Pro could also tip the scales in its favor. This was a video comparison between the LG Optimus G Pro and the Sony Xperia Z from PhoneArena. For more information about these and other handsets, you can visit us at phonearena.com. Thanks for watching.